Welcome to Deluxe Finance. If you enjoy this type of content, then subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on any of our latest and greatest uploads. The world has generally enjoyed low inflation over the past 30 years or so. Only a few developing countries, notably Venezuela, Argentina, and Zimbabwe, have experienced hyperinflation, an economic situation so destructive that some economists have called it when money dies. In most countries, inflation-targeting central banks have kept inflation under control, helped by globalization and floating foreign currency exchange rates that serve to tame external price pressures. But since the COVID-19 pandemic and the start of the Ukraine war, high and accelerating inflation has reappeared in developed economies for the first time since the 1970s. Could Western countries such as the U.S. also experience hyperinflation? Hyperinflation is a devastating and often permanent collapse of the value of money. So much so that a major book about Germany's famous bout of hyperinflation in 1922-23 was entitled When Money Dies. Hyperinflation is characterized by extremely rapid price increases in all goods and services. In the worst-known cases of hyperinflation, prices doubled in days or even hours. When prices rise this fast, people rush to spend their money as soon as they get it. As a result, the velocity at which money circulates in the economy rises exponentially, feeding the price rises. Hyperinflation is thus also known as hypervelocity. It's important to distinguish between high inflation, say 10% or slightly more per year, and hyperinflation. In a seminal 1956 study, National Bureau of Economic Research economist Philip Kagan defined hyperinflation as consumer price index increases exceeding 50% per month. For comparison, the U.S. Federal Reserve CPI inflation target is 2% per year. Countries can experience high inflation for years without it developing into hyperinflation. For example, Argentina's inflation rate has exceeded 25% per year since 2017 and twice topped 50%. But it hasn't yet shown the exponentially rising prices characteristic of hyperinflation. Argentina last experienced hyperinflation in 1989-1990, when the International Monetary Fund estimates prices soared by 2,600% per year. Monetary economist Cullen Roche defines hyperinflation as a disorderly economic progression that leads to complete psychological rejection of the sovereign currency. He argues that hyperinflation is a fundamental breakdown of trust in government and its institutions. His view is echoed by the Bank of International Settlements, which noted in a June 2022 paper that hyperinflations typically follow periods of major political upheavals and a generalized loss of confidence in institutions. Fortunately, hyperinflation is a rare phenomenon. In 2013, Cato Institute economists Steve Hanke and Nicholas Kruss published a list of 56 known instances of hyperinflation, the first of which was in France in 1796. Hanke later added Venezuela's recent hyperinflation to the list, bringing the total of known instances to 57. The World Bank has warned that because of the war with Russia, Ukraine may also be on the brink of hyperinflation. A key reason hyperinflation is so rare is that before it can happen, a country must experience a series of financial crises without effectively managing them. There are generally 4 stages in the run-up to hyperinflation. Stage 1. The country builds up high levels of debt, either private, public, or both. Some or most of this debt is denominated in foreign currency, perhaps because of a long-term trade deficit or from financing a war. Stage 2. A crisis, political, economic, or financial, severely damages the country's productive capacity. This causes the government tax income to fall, which in turn causes the fiscal deficit to widen sharply. As a result, the country's sovereign currency exchange rate starts to fall relative to other countries, and inflation starts to rise. Stage 3. The economic crisis and rising fiscal deficit damage confidence in the government, which loses its ability to borrow from financial markets or from its own citizens. So it chooses to print money via the central bank to finance its obligations. Stage 4. As the money printing becomes widely recognized, the last vestiges of confidence in the government is destroyed. The currency exchange rate collapses and hyperinflation takes off. Most economists agree that hyperinflation happens when people lose confidence in their government institutions, particularly the currency, due to a political, economic, or financial crisis. It is worth remembering that hyperinflation is quite different from high inflation. Business strategies exist for dealing with high inflation, but with hyperinflation, prices rise exponentially. They're out of control. Further, hyperinflation, with its combination of economic crisis and runaway inflation, may sound similar to stagflation, but the two are entirely different economic phenomena. Stagflation is the combination of inflation and low or no economic growth, usually accompanied by high unemployment. While hyperinflation destroys a country's currency and sometimes its government, stagflation merely makes people's lives miserable as the inflation erodes the value of their money and the lack of economic growth limits their ability to make more. Recessions can come during periods of stagflation, but they don't always. And with that, we've reached the end of this video all about what hyperinflation is. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like it.